It's very hard to find the right tone for something. And that's why I'm grateful for the Clean Comedy Collective, because my experience only thus far has been I have been able to find more people who are philanthropic, who are attracted to a clean comedy network than not.
You're listening to the podcast, Clean Comedy Chats with your host, Drew Davis. It's gonna be awesome and will change your life forever. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Hello and welcome back to the second episodes of Clean Comedy Chats with Drew Davis. I'm your host, Drew Davis. And for those of you that are brand new, which would make sense because this is only our second episode, this is a podcast where a while back I started the Clean Comedy Collective with some friends. Last year we went nationwide, and here we are now with over 200 comedians from across the states. And it's just an opportunity for me to get to know them better, and for you hopefully to get to know them and maybe discover your new favorite comedian or entertainer in the process. Last week we had co-founder Sean T. Hughes. This week we have a brand new guest. I'm very excited to introduce you all to Paula Jane Newman. How are you doing, Paula?
I'm all right this morning. How you doing?
I am good. I'm very excited that you're on this podcast. I feel the need to let you know, like after like doing a deep dive on you and stuff like that, and also having already met you and talking to you, I feel like we're kindred spirits. Like I feel like we're best friends in a different life, or maybe we have the same spirit animal, or I'm very much not into astrology, but maybe we have the same signs, or I don't know. But like, because, and here's why, you do so much things. Like, so Paula's obviously a comedian, and we're going to get into it more, but she's also an author. She also runs a nonprofit. She's also an actress. She's also works with meditation and breathing exercises, and we're so much stuff. And as a comedian myself, who's also trying to start feeling like I'm a jack of all trades, like I look at what you've done and what you're doing, and I'm like, that's what I want to do. And then when we had our first conversation afterwards, I was like, man, what a cool person. So all that to say, I'm so glad you're here. I'm going to open up with the same question that I ask everyone, my whole two guests. This is the question that we always start off with. I plan on I plan on continuing to ask this question. It's very important to me. The question is simply, from your perspective, who is Paula Jane Newman? I feel like all the time in life, we're always being told who we are, or we have this expectation based on other people's standards. So I don't think enough times do we ask ourselves specifically, who am I? And you ask who. So here on the Clean Comedy Chats with Drew, that's the first question we ask all the comedians. Who are you?
All right. Okay. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Yeah, that's funny that who I am. I really think that I'm someone you can't put in a box. And I think one of my biggest challenges in life is I'm ahead of the curve. Because I will come up with an idea and I feel like I talk people blue in the face. They're like, I don't understand that concept. And then I turn around and someone's making bucket loads of cash doing what I have been talking about like 4 years. So on the inside, I would say I feel I'm not understood. But on the outside, people always would say, "Oh, you're the real deal," and I would be confused because to me, I'd be like, "Well, who's not? Why would you not want what?" Yeah, people really who try to psychoanalyze me get into a lot of trouble because they get more confused because they start to they come along with all this psychological analyzation of boxes and boxes and boxes, and the more they talk to me, the more they realize that I'm not in that one box, or maybe I'm in another box, or and so I drive them up the wall with that. So I would say, if you want to talk kindred spirit, what is this word? Okay, we're going to get airy fairy. They call something like star seeds. People have come down from another planet to be here to observe the human race and make the world a better place. Because sometimes, I just don't feel like I belong anywhere.
That's fair. I've never heard that, star seed. You're a star seed. I don't like calling you a seed. Is that too much?
No, another. I mean, if you say alien now, your video's gonna get flagged.
That's true.
But yeah, I just have this if you want to talk astrology, this very Aquarian viewpoint, of the world. I've always had this outside view. I remember in my early teens spending my breaks talking to my history teacher and talking philosophy. We didn't have philosophy in our school as a subject then, but always had this sort of more worldly view, and also at the same time irreverence, like this irreverent sense of humor to things. And also, like, I get very emotional, affected, but at the same time, I can let it almost be next to me. And like, oh, okay, that emotion's run through. That was an interesting experience.
It's interesting you're talking about you're talking about not being like to be put in boxes and being a hard person to put in boxes. One of my current life goals, just with how I am, is trying not to define myself on like my job or like what I do. For so long in my own life, I was the youth pastor or I was the comedian, and I'm realizing now as I get older, like those are parts of who you are. But if you define yourself by any one thing, it can get bad when that one thing isn't going well, because then you feel like you aren't doing well. So maybe I'm also trying to not be limited to boxes. That being said, you have a lot of boxes we could put you in with the stuff that you've been doing. You've got a very you're and I wrote down just a few. I mean, you're a stand-up comedian. You're also a comedy show producer. You produce an online show that is connected with the Clean Comedy Collective, and I've been on it before, and I absolutely love it. You're an actress. You're also a teacher. You're also an author. You also run your own nonprofit. I know I'm missing some. Like you can but I'm just wondering, out of all the things that you do, obviously you probably like them all, but like, is there a one that's kind of like your first love or like the thing that, man, if part of you just wants to only do that?
Yeah, I think you missed the box of exhausted, disappointed. Uh, I would say my first love would be if I could make, this is what I wanted to do when I was younger, make enough money through good stage and film to then do my philanthropic work. And what happened was I got to a point where I realized even though I made money and I could make a living, which through the Screen Actors Guild is only 5% of members at any time, was that why was I not being philanthropic? If that's what I really wanted to do, I can do that right now without having to be this famous person with all this money and then do it. And I wanted to fuse it all. At one point, it was so, I find the industry, entertainment industry, just soul depleting. Even though you've got a lot of people who want to be, who are very open-hearted and are very aware of their own soul's path, the actual business of it and the trudge and the hustle can be very depleting because the repercussions to be able to survive and live are very hard. Rewards to is very hard to attain because the value of what we do is not equated, which I address more in the Pain to Punchlines book that right now I'm re-updating because my father passed. And I felt this block. I'm like, why am I not really pushing this thing? And then I realized after he'd passed, I came back. Oh, I was holding back. I wasn't really writing my own voice fully. I was trying to write something that people would understand, my concepts and my ideas. There were times that I wish I could have made a full-time living teaching meditation and help upgrading people's consciousness. And there's a person down the street who would get more meditation students, and I would think, well, I'm nicer than them. Why? I don't understand why this person gets. And then I would just take it up to the God and the cosmos, like, why am I not being recognized? And this will run through with comedy as well in all fields. And then I had to understand that power, money, is a neutral element. If it wasn't neutral and only went to good people, then we wouldn't see the world the way the world is, right? And then I have some stuff for me to sort out. And I thought, well, if I want to do something to help people and things work better when I help people, that's when I turned the meditation teaching into a complete nonprofit. And then COVID came. And that's when the comedy came back because I stopped it. I did comedy for a year. It was too toxic. And I was raising a child at the time. And I know you don't get time back with children. And I was not willing to spend hours at a club to try to gain favors of the males who are dominating the scene, whether they could get some gratification from me in whatever means that could mean to you who's listening. I wasn't willing to do that. I made my money in the entertainment business. I was what's called successful enough to live by just doing, acting and voice work, And so I didn't need validation to be famous in the comedy world. I was doing it as a way to express my voice, speak my voice. And plus, people had told me some of them are dead now, actually, but in the industry, in the comedy industry, like you need to do this for a while. And I just kept ignoring it. And so when I knew we needed to laugh, and laughter is related to breathing, we brought in the comedy element to the nonprofit. And so then I fought for a year coming back to comedy. I fought it. I don't want to do it. It was painful. But what was happening was my body was healing from a long-term muscular repetitive stress injury. And I had to acknowledge that something was going on by doing this comedy in my body, in my physiology. So I then said, well, I just get a head trip when it's just about me. I don't make money when it's just about me. If I'm doing something for a cause and I'm the producer of it and you get a nominal fee, then it will work. Then community comes together. And so that's where Rise Up Comedy came up and out. That's where it blends in with the nonprofit for the meditation. That's where it brings in my yoga teaching with laughter yoga. It's all coming down to one thing, which is shifting our consciousness, lifting our vibration, or changing us from fight or flight to the relaxation state. So we have a moment to unstress, be present, and listen to who we really are. All of this stuff that's happening in the world is such a great distraction to listen to that inner voice. And that's, I feel with your work, like to be a pastor and then realize that path is finished, even though you still have your faith. That is a big, big revolutionary example for people. And the generation, the generation Z or Z, they know they're going to have multiple jobs, multiple careers. So why not have this facet is what I do here. This is what I do here. And it's like the kid that I raised, they're now almost 24. They just picked up the guitar and started writing songs one day. And I was like, oh, what made you do that? I don't know. I wondered if I could do it because there was no judgment on doing that at the same time. Whereas I come from, you do one career, you've got to be successful at that. And if you're not a successful actress, oh, well, that's why you're doing that because you're not successful. So a lot of it is the fighting of my inner voice of what you're told you were supposed to be or how you're supposed to be, which I feel is like every time a woman goes to the doctor, honestly, like you're just saying, okay, but then there's this thing, because a female body is considered, I think it's like the atypical or the abnormal body, like the male body was the normal one. So the female body, and you're just like, what a horrible way of just viewing the world. Yeah. Period. And that's a very long answer. And so the chat's over.
Right. Well, you've solved it all. We've addressed everything. It is interesting. You're talking a little bit about comedy and entertainment, and perhaps it's true about a lot of different careers or jobs in this world. Just learning to look past the toxicity of things. And oftentimes someone or people or organization is kind of telling you, this is what you should do. This is what you should be. And recognizing, like you were saying, like, it was really insightful when you said, like, why do I have to wait till I'm rich or whatever before I start doing philanthropy? You get what I'm saying. Before I start doing good things for other people.
What is it? Phlebotomist who takes your blood. I always
philanthropy.
You know what? This is so funny because my dad's name was Philip.
Right.
So we're stuttering over the Phils.
Phils, he's with us in this chat right now. So a lot of what I like about what you do is that it goes back to the positivity. It goes back to the encouraging others. It goes back to helping people. And we'll talk about, we'll kind of zoom in on a lot of the different things you do here in a second, but it always comes back to positivity. And I think that's really cool. That's something we have in common with what we're doing to Clean Comedy Collective. You know, even before we became a nationwide network of comedians, when we were just here in Middle Tennessee, it when we started, it was just me and a few other people that wanted to produce shows and wanted to create space where there was just less BS in comedy. There was just less, you know, we wanted our shows to be positive. We wanted how we interact with comedians to be more positive. And I really do feel like, especially when you look at like our first few open mics, you know, we used to run this one in a juice bar that was a very little mic, but people came and like women said, we feel safe coming to this mic. People felt comfortable being brand new comedians and just getting up there. And it was such a weird little juice bar, but I feel like it was able to help us kind of create a more positive identity for what we were doing. You do a lot of cool things, and so I want to kind of zoom in on a few of them and let you talk about it a little bit. Starting with, you had mentioned already your book that you're doing another edition of. I've had the opportunity to look at the first edition. I think I had an entry in the edition, and I just realized it's from pain to punchlines, and so I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about this book and really connect it with your own story. Because I know you've had to go through a lot of pain and punchlines yourself. So
Yes, right. I think that's something everyone can relate to. So it's called Pain to Punchlines, stand-up comedy, a transformation superpower. And it came about because I wanted to document. I was tired of trying to explain to people why my body was healing by doing stand-up comedy. And I was basically going through and I discovered that my CPTSD, and I'm reliving the trauma in comedy, but I started to create an environment through Rise Up Comedy with people who would take my class, which is very different. Yes, there are punchlines, but it's emotional class, as in you just naturally things come up. I hardly work for the comedy. It comes up, stuff comes up for people, and then they perform it in a loving space. So when we say positivity, I like to say real true positivity comes from one space, and that is a space of love. And I'm talking about that divine, unconditional love. And not everyone in the world has ever experienced that. That is actually the archetype of the divine mother, but not everyone has a mother that gave unconditional love. Right. So that's the space that true positivity comes from. Sometimes people overcompensate by trying to be positive because they're so fake. Or they just have psychiatric issues. I can't decide sometimes.
maybe a little bit of both.
maybe. And I just wanted to get it out. I want to get it out. I'd done an ebook before. And as I was going through it, I realized it was way more than I thought. And, you know, because it's almost like I'm not a big star, right? I don't have all these name and accolades for people to want to know about my stand-up comedy class. And why should I take an online stand-up comedy class from this person? And I have that voice from how I used to be when I was 20. You know, who are you? Which is valid in this world. Mm-hmm. And the point was I wanted to be able to express in a way the change. And that included people who had taken the class and had experienced a change in their lives as a result of doing it. And then people who were thought were good souls in the comedy world who understood the power of laughter. And this is where Margaret Cho came in willing to give a quote for the book. Now, I have read the one that's out right now, and I'm horrified at the syntax and the grammar, and it doesn't work. I'm also horrified at formatting, and we're also changing it where, you know, we're keeping images out for other reasons, but keeping all the quotes and the stories in from people. Because I want to bring together a community of laughter, but a community where people are the best way you make the world a better place. Yeah, give people food, they need food, but what we need to do is shift the consciousness. Unfortunately, in my lifetime, it's not going to happen. The powers that be will always want to put other people down. We can look around globally and see that this is happening. It's not just in one particular country. So we need those band-aids like food and medicine, for example. But ultimately, the true medicine is if we listen and learn to our own vibration. And the only way to be our true selves is we have to break the cultural conditioning. We have to break what we came into this world and find out who we really are. And so the book, Pain to Punchlines, was through my chronic pain. And then through learning to do punchlines, which I always feel I could do more of, is how I started to do this healing and speaking my truth. And I documented that. And then I have the moving through of CPTSD and the healing elements, not only of laughter, but what happens when you speak your truth. And then you speak your truth with a supportive environment. Because most of the time when we speak our truth as a child and we're shut down, we remember that we have that neurological programming. Oh, I decided to speak my truth. I was shut down, and we go inside. And here we provide a space that not only do you speak your truth with people that are supportive of you getting up there, do it, they're raising money for a good cause. So they're feeling good by helping people by being there. And then they're helping you help people. And in addition, they're laughing.
Those are all good things.
It's a trifactor of healing. And so, I can't say they're massive fundraisers, but I can tell you when it comes to the world of comedy and making money, it makes more money than normal in ratio to those people who spend loads of bucks, right? And the comedians, I try to work really hard on finding that it's very hard to find the right tone for something. And that's why I'm grateful for the Clean Comedy Collective, because my experience only thus far has been, I have been able to find more people who are philanthropic, who are attracted to a clean comedy network than not. That's right. Then that's probably got a lot to do with you. My experience of writing clean comedy is it's harder. It's harder to do. Can I get to the real funny without a swear word or without too much talking about, people being naked? Can I do that? What's really missing, which is maybe something we should talk about, help them create, is the family clean comedy. At the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, there are gaps for people who are able to do 10 a.m. Saturday shows for people to bring their kids to.
Yeah.
You will sell out if you have a show that you can do that with. And my friend who runs a very successful sort of theatre education now, whatever you want to call it, in Kuala Lumpur, she said to me a couple of years ago, Paula, based on your energy, but then she goes, based on your age, meaning I'm not 18 trying to be famous. This is the market that is desperate. You have a lot of energy and positive, just a positive, bright force to bring parents and have the double entendres that the parents get, but the kids don't. She's like, you need to be writing this family comedy because I'm telling you, there's a gap in the market. And maybe I'm telling myself now because after my father passed, I want to write my one-person show about that called Death on Koh Samui. Koh Samui is so famous now because of the White Lotus, but that's where my dad lived. And the hilarity that ensued of comically, I'll tell this one interesting story. So when my grandmother died, my father brought this piece of paper and they were, saying, oh, I paid for this plot, where my dad was. We should go out. Now, Exeter is not, it's the southwest and we were dead south. And if you don't know, coming from another country, it can take like the day to get down to Exeter. It's 4 hours in windy roads. You got to stop for lunch. It's not like in America, you drive through Texas in the same amount of time and you've gone somewhere. And I said, well, shouldn't you just give him a ring? No. And we go there and we're walking around trying to find the plot because granddad's name is not listed on any of the plot. And it's, like rose bushes and you have a little plaque, And so he says, well, just wait here. And, we weren't that young, I was, I had got my own place. So I was, in my 20s, my brother and I were in our 20s. And my dad comes out all huff and puff, and he stands next to us and he is, right. When I say run, You're going to do it faster than you've ever done in your life. Okay. So they said I haven't paid for it, so they're not going to let me have the plot. And I think this is it. And he gets the urn, opens it up, dumps it, and he goes, run. And we just bang it all the way across the cemetery into the car. And we like, get off outside of the premises, right? Now, we get to Koh Samui, Thailand, where my father has a Thai Buddhist service, and he's cremated. And then the next day you get up early at the temple, 5 o'clock in the morning. I mean, it's fascinating. When am I going to take that?
Yeah.
And you get the monks blessing. Oh, they do another service again. White envelopes are passed for donations. Food is bought. You've got saffron robes that are purchased and everything. And then we have this, it's all wrapped up. Didn't know that when you get cremated, the hip bones are very hard to, they're like, these are all blessed. It puts them in this big thing, like swaddling in a manger. It's like, they're all heavy, right? So, okay, you're going to go on the boat with the monk, and you must only think positive vibrations about your father. So when these ashes reincarnate, they will have a positive effect. Okay. Then she forgets the paperwork. And then before I know it, we're pulling over to the side of the road by the ocean. And I said, so no boat. No boat. Couldn't get the boat. We come out, and there's her sisters, and they're looking at this other person by the ocean, and they're talking, and they're standing uncomfortable. And I thought, I know what's going on. And so they take this bag, they look around, and they throw the ashes into the ocean. And I start saying what they've taught me to say, like, well, safe journey, Philip. Wishing you the best for the next lifetime. Come back, more evolved, right? And she goes, shh. And then we get out of the ocean and we run back into the car. And if that isn't karma, I don't know what is.
Right. They were they were rectifying what happened with your grandfather. So that's interesting. Also, like, I don't know, at that point, I let it go, let him go, bury him properly, like, it's fine. But wow, what a story. Thank you for sharing that. You are English. When did you come here to the States?
I came here. I came as a teenager, so I've been here for 30 plus years. So
you're more American than British, then. I think it's safe to say.
Oh yeah, when I go back, I went and did some comedy last year in England because I wanted to face my stuff and see how I would do in England. And it was the worst time of the year to go because everything shuts down around the holidays. My stepfather had a significant birthday, so I went for that. And somebody wrote back, well, yes, I've seen your footage, and it's, lack of a better word, very American, which is basically insulting. Yeah. I know what they're saying. But then he was almost like he sort of went back on his word in the same email. He said, yes, finding your place, getting seen, standing out, excellent tactics, but probably wouldn't work here in England. And I was like, okay. He goes, do you have anything else to send? So then I worked really hard on some other stuff because a lot of it is I'm a Brit in America. Americans love British accents. They love me making fun of being a Brit in America. And this is the market I'm in, right? Yeah. Like, let's accept that. And let's have that on the lineup. It's different. So go with the flow. And so then I sent him a brand new thing that I done. It was when I was in Bangkok, actually performing comedy. And he never watched it.
Oh, and you set it up in a way where you can definitely tell when they watched it or not. I don't even want to know. I send things and I never look back. But that's smart, though. So.
I did, especially for him. I had one link for it. It only had one view, which was me watching it afterwards, and he never watched it.
That's such a bummer.
Well, it's just we'll poo-poo you by saying, do this, do that. And that's terribly English. And my experience in England was very mixed. My experience was the independent shows. It was absolutely fine what I was doing. They enjoyed it. When I went to bigger places, I went to like a gong show thing, and I just went into my CPTSD and I blanked and I froze. And the whole point is they boo you off. And
Right.
so I made some comment about the fires back home in London, they did not like that. And I was like, but I live there, it's my
Right.
home.
Yeah.
And then they just decided to boo me off. And I was like, well,
Oh, that's so
I got
rough.
booed off faster than the man with a diaper on.
They're bragging rights, I guess. I don't know that, but it just goes to show you there's different genres to everyone has different interests. It's subjective. Sometimes it's like, and so as growing comedians, we have to realize as our career develops, we're not for everyone, and we do have our crowds, and then we have our not crowds. We have the people that don't like our stuff, and the more unique and more developed your act gets, the more some people are going to absolutely love it. And then other people are going to prefer the man with a diaper, which is really a weird thing to, because I don't want to say it's humbling. I don't, sometimes I'm like, why? But also it is what it is, you know?
Well, they were bewildered.
Yeah.
That's why. You can keep an audience from
Mhm.
booing you off if they're bewildered long enough.
Yeah, that's true. They're like, where's this going? Where's this
Yeah,
man
yeah.
in the
It's
diaper?
there.
Yeah.
And then they're like, at the end, it was like, well done. You did that for 5 minutes, chap.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well done. But
Yeah.
I feel you're absolutely right. And someone said this to me, who's quite a successful comedian, and they were like, what you want to do is do your one person show, have that grounded with comedy in it, and
Mhm.
then you're going to find people who find your vibe.
Absolutely.
When those people find your vibe through that, then you get your stand up. But then I will also tell you that same person who's very successful in Australia, a friend of mine, said, I don't know now what I would tell people who are starting out in comedy.
Mm.
I tell them you have to be wealthy, because they then said there's the social media, there's the
Right.
hustle, there's the writing of it, then there's the traveling to get into all different places. And I said, it's becoming that way. Yes. And it's almost like there are certain things where you see a lot of people who are retired, who have that retired income, who are like, I always wanted to try this. It's okay. I know friends now who live in this city. I can stay with them and try some comedy. Why not? And that's why when with what you're doing, you're filtering through in your talents, the admin, no one understands the admin skills required to be a performer when you do your own thing. When it comes to stand-up comedy, you are on your own.
Yeah.
You can
It's not
have,
just on the stage, but it's off the stage too. You have to figure out all the things, and for other forms of entertainment, you have a whole company or a whole bunch doing everything that a lot of comedians have to do when they start out. And it's great when you make it big and get to pay people to do certain parts and expand what you're doing. But it is for new comedians, for people trying to rise, for people trying to make it, there is a lot of hard considerations, and a lot of people do decide to go with financial security over chasing their comedic dream, or waiting for the opportunities as they're doing something else and being paid, and then they're able to put that money back into their career. But it's hard because
I
sometimes when you're doing that, it feels like you're not really being true to, like, oh, but this is what I want to do. I want to ask you one more comedy related question before I get to some of my other questions. And that is, tell me a little bit about Rise Up Comedy, and tell me a little bit about Aware Meditations. I feel like they're connected. I know anytime I see posts, they're both collaborating on the same post. So it's hard to tell from my perspective where one ends and the other begins. But I'd love
yeah,
for you to share a little. I think it's wonderful, but I'd love for you to share with our listeners and viewers.
I think that's an excellent question. They are part of the same. So the 501(c)(3) nonprofit is under the name Aware Meditation, right? And Aware Meditation's mission is to help bring stress reduction techniques to allow for a shift in consciousness that isn't from anything mind altering. So all of the techniques have to be tried and proved scientifically. So we have meditation that's been proved scientifically. We don't endorse any mind altering drugs for what we do. We include wellness talks, which of course we talk, when people talk and give experience from wisdom, it helps other people. We do laughter yoga with that. And part of that element is the Rise Up comedy on its own. And Rise Up Comedy is designed to help lift up everyone through an event. If someone is a feature and wants to be a headliner in a small space that I think they're right, we'll give them the headliner spot. If a headliner is only used to doing more sort of put down comedy and says, I'd like to do a clean set in the environment, we give them the opportunity to do that. We try to lift everyone up through the experience of, so we're starting to try to shift the consciousness of comedy, moving away from its toxicity and goals to being able to be present in the moment. And then when we film the sets for the people, they have probably maybe not the best filmings. There's always something with sound that can go wrong, but they have the best audience that makes them more open and vulnerable than they can often find at a club place. And so that's the idea behind it. And really, we're fusing wellness. I call it where wellness and art collide. They collide together. They are part of the same element because they're all about shifting people's consciousness and uplifting them. So the
Right.
Rise Up Comedy has the online classes. Aware Meditation has a big YouTube. And on the YouTube channel, you can see a broad spectrum of things. You'll see marathons that we did during COVID, where you've got yoga, you've got wellness, you've even got a gardening section, anything that helps reduce stress for the individual. You've also got videos about meditation, including our group meditation with topics like how to deal with holiday stress or Valentine's Day coming up, you know. Then you've even got some astrology stuff, because for me, scientifically, when you get into astrology, not just reading a sun sign, it's actually been very healing for me. So the Rise Up Comedy Pathetic YouTube channel is usually the sets that people let us do. And we also stream the show Pain to Punchlines. So as I believe in a globally reaching out to people where we're not, people who are shut-ins, people who are in more rural areas might not have access to attend a comedy show, might not have the capability to understand meditation. So this is why we do the online show. We try to bring in global people. You've had a feeling as a comedian, the vibe of just being
Hmm.
on that little event, even if there's only 3 people there, people come away with getting each other's numbers to be on their shows, or it's a heartwarming experience for everyone when they're on it, because it's something greater than myself is happening energetically when I'm in this space.
Yeah,
I
I loved it. I loved my experience on the show with y'all. It was a fun show. I also made some friends. I reconnected with a few other comedians that I'd met maybe at like a festival somewhere else, and then I was able to go do their shows too. And something I like, well, two things I liked about what you're talking about here is one, I love the idea of providing comedy to the people that we often forget about. So by doing a virtual show, you can absolutely someone can tune in who couldn't come to a comedy club, and those are often the people we don't think about because they're not the ones usually buying tickets or they're not the ones we see at the clubs. But especially going back to a lot of your kind of mission with what you do, those people need laughs just as much as anybody else. And some of them might be home for a very sad reason, and they might be exactly the person that you want at your show, benefiting from your comedy. And then another thing you said that I really like, and I feel like I can relate to with the Clean Comedy Collective, is you talked about how you give features a chance to headline, or maybe if it's a headliner who usually does more crass comedy and they want to work clean, you give them the opportunity to work clean with their sets. A lot of times people are surprised when I talk about the Clean Comedy Collective that we don't like there are some comedians that are exclusively clean, and they're part of our network too, but we also look for people that can work either or, but at least when they're doing one of the Clean Comedy Collective shows, they know how to work clean. Like it's not a prerequisite to be in our network if to only work clean. I have several friends here in Middle Tennessee that are part of the Clean Comedy Collective that I've seen them work just as much not clean as I've seen them work clean. But when they've been on my clean shows, they've absolutely killed. And so it's like for me, I'm like, if they can play ball the way we want them to, and they want to be part of the group, then let's have them. I don't like the idea of just separating people because they also work not clean. Like if you can work clean, and so all that say is I love what you do with how you help your comedians out. And so
Oh,
I think
thank you.
yeah.
I would like for it to be bigger. Get more people who want to take. I mean,
Hmm.
right now the classes are so cheap as well because I believe it being offset. So rather than
Hmm.
paying $300 for a comedy class, it's like half the price. And then the class finishes at the 5th week, and we have 2 weeks before the show. And that's when we finesse the actual set. And, we started at level 2,
Mm-hmm.
and one person, she was from Russia. She was like, Paula, I have been profoundly affected by this class. Like, I'm not ready for the next one. And it's because of all the stuff that she stuffed down. And
Mm-hmm.
I want you to know, I don't make anybody do anything they don't want to,
Mm-hmm.
right? Somebody started talking about an event that happened in high school prom, and I said, they got back to me and they said, I realize I'm still dealing with basically the wound, not the scar, right? And so I'm going to see outside help. I said, that's great. We are going to find something else for you to do. And me not having the fear that what they're doing isn't enough. And they ended up doing this story set,
Mm-hmm.
hilarious, about working in the fundraising department of Princeton University.
Okay. That sounds
Right? See
fun.
how you
Yeah.
also automatically was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, people and the comedians who were on that were like, what the heck? Like, it was funny. And I told them, I said, you have a recording now that you could send off to a storytelling or comedy festivals. And even if you don't get picked, that person watching would be like, wow, that
Right.
is so, and that's what we want, people's stories to be out there with truth and lightness, because something happens when you speak your truth. So I love that. I actually try to give away classes in auctions for nonprofits and things as well, for people
That's
to have the
wonderful.
opportunity to take it. And then people give a donation to help pay the headliner for the online show. And, I just hope I feel that in the next few years, I'll have all these random things that people are like, oh, that's what you were building all this
Mm-hmm.
time. And at the
Yeah.
same time, not killing myself, because my body will drop and the consciousness will not have evolved. I'm not going to kill myself for the sake of charity, but part of who I am is to help make the world a better place without being aggressive about it. Like, people work in charities and it drives them crazy. They become very manipulative, very aggressive, and they have to
Mm-hmm.
do either a lot of pills or whatever to get through it. It's the story of the pastor who doesn't have enough money because there's not enough people coming to their church,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
Right. It's
Yeah.
this, how do you do that with and still keep this message that you're carrying? So it comes in ebbs and flows, and I just put it out there. And if anything, it helps attract people like you to me by you saying, oh, look, you're doing this thing, or here's this video of this thing. Does it mean it turned into something? Not necessarily, but it's about doing that. And even when I come to charity shows that I do for 12-step programs, they
Mm-hmm.
have the one meeting hall I work with, it's online. And I try so hard to reach out to rehabilitations or sober livings, like you can dial in online, because the advantage of that as an audience member is you can put it on mute. You won't be attacked. They're not going to attack you. You're observing the
Yep.
show, but you can still laugh and you can still have some joy from it, and then make a donation. So the
Yeah.
last one we did at the end of last year, I tried really hard and I reached out to so many people. I'm talking about at least 100 emails, and I have a repetitive stress injury. So I have a limited amount of time I can do on
Mm-hmm.
the computer. Nothing came back. Nothing at all. But does it mean it's wasted? No, we're trying. I'll try a bit more. And then usually what happens is I sit back, let it go, and then I get busy here, and then suddenly there's a knock on the
Right.
door. Because we
Yeah.
don't know at any time how we're changing or affecting people. We just simply keep doing it.
Yes. And I think that's the important part of what we do. And it's true for any creative who's creating anything, whether it's in comedy or any other form of entertainment. You keep doing it, and you are wise to say, like, you're not going to kill yourself in the process of doing it. You have to know your own limits, you have to set your boundaries, you have to know when to, care about other parts of your life. But for anyone who's building anything, we don't know what it's going to be until it's there. Like, you're working on something right now that you may not see the fruits towards for several years, maybe, and that's okay. But you'll be able to look back and be like, oh, I see now why that went the way it did. So I love all that. And for anyone wondering, all of the links to Paula's stuff, whether it's Rise Up Comedy, Awareness Meditation, her personal website, they're all going to be in the episode notes. So you can, with however you're listening to us, or if you're watching us on YouTube, you can just look down at the description and you'll be able to click on whatever to get to any of this, because you might be hearing this and be like, well, I want to take one of these classes, or I want to check out one of the shows, and we'll have all that available where you can check it out. I want to shift gears because I feel like this happens every time we talk, Paula. We get so into the weeds of comedy and life and stuff like that. I don't get to ask questions I really want to know about, and it's around your acting career. All right, I spent some time on your IMDb yesterday, just looking it up, and you're in so many things that like I've watched before and enjoyed. I didn't write down our notes, but I can remember. So you were in Pirates of the Caribbean. You were a voiceover in Andor. No, you weren't. That wasn't the cartoon. That you were in Andor. You were in Aragon. I didn't I didn't see it, but I saw that you were cast as the annoying girl in a movie named Caffeine. So I don't even remember what that is. But it's just so you've done a lot of cool, or at least for me, cool acting things. I'd love to know more about your acting experience, and if you have any, especially if you have any fun stories about Pirates of the Caribbean, or like if there's anything that sticks out to you. And and also, do you still do voiceover work in acting? Is that still something that's part of your life? So.
Yeah, I mean, my dream was, when I went to Carnegie Mellon University for acting, and at the time they had no showcase in Los Angeles, and I was like, at one point in Pittsburgh, it was minus 45 with wind
Oof.
factor, and I was like, I can't be in the cold anymore. I grew up in England. I need to be in the sunshine.
Mhm.
So I helped create the first Los Angeles showcase, and they've done one ever since. That's how I ended up in LA. And I, had an agent or whatnot, but I was really bad at auditioning. I'm so bad at auditioning. I am a much better actor than I am auditioner. And I never got into do any comedy for it. I only ever booked stuff through friends. And then I had a fake manager that
Oh,
we were a bunch of actors and we clubbed together. And that's how I
that's
got Pirates of the
fun.
Caribbean. And I remember the audition. I had the final audition, the third final audition or fourth was the read through. And I
Mhm.
sat next to Johnny Depp and Jerry Bruckheimer. And they needed to meet me before I could get the part. Now I had just got hurt very early that month with my repetitive stress injury. I
Mhm.
could hardly put my arm out. I had to have heat things on my wrists here for tendonitis. And
Oh
I was like, I
wow.
can't let them know. So I took my wrist splints. I had custom made splints. And I sat there and I was just like, please don't let them know I'm in so much pain. I was supposed to read the lines of Zoe Saldana and I forgot to, I just lost it. So then the casting director did it. And during that process, Johnny Depp had the Viper Room at that time in LA. And he was drinking, I think it was like 10:30 in the morning, red wine.
Oh
Uh,
gosh, that's early.
oh, yeah. And had a bottle for himself. Of course, he was like, "Oh, do you want to drink?" I was like, "No, I'm fine, thank you." Like that will not get me the job. Uh, and at the end of it, he's like, He was like, "Is everything comfortable?" I said, "Well, it is a bit cold." And he was like, "What?" I was like, "It's a bit cold." And he's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, we can work on that." Well, yeah, well, hopefully I'll see you soon. I was like, "I don't really think so." He was like, "What?" I was like, "Well, we're not in any scenes together, are we?" He was so taken back. Like, it was like, "Yeah, but I'll probably see you around." I go, "It's really not likely, is it?" And he was like, "Well, no, I think that we will." I was like, "Wow, best laid plans then, Johnny." And that was my conversation with Johnny Depp. And I got a call later that afternoon that I did get the job. I shot early on, and I shot not in the Caribbean. No, I was down in Manhattan Beach Studios. And I begged my boyfriend at the time to use his car because I had stick shift and I just couldn't drive for my 6 a.m. calls. And we got there and they said, well, we'll put you in your corset. And I said, no, no, you won't. Not until it comes to my scene. They were like, well, you need to be ready. I go, well, you're going to give me ready when they set the lights up for my scene. And so the first day, I did nothing. I sat in my trailer because they never got to my scene because Orlando Bloom had such bad jet lag. He kept forgetting his lines and with the swords. And that one afternoon, Keira Knightley decided that she could keep the corset on and have lunch. And of course, it was on so tight in the afternoon that she fainted. And so the next day, when I said, yeah, you won't be putting my corset on. No, no, we're not going to put your corset on unless you need to. And I was like,
They learned.
okay.
You knew ahead of time.
Oh yeah, I've been in a lot of corsets and a lot of and of course it was the one time I was in a Shakespeare festival playing Helena and they wanted me to come early to film and I was like, when are you ever in a Shakespeare festival and doing a movie at the same
Right.
time? You know, that they were thinking of trying to move my date sooner than not, but they didn't. And my last story, Kira and I, our scene was almost cut, which is a lovely, nice scene between the two of us.
Mhm.
But the director wanted to keep it. So Gore Verbinski fought against Jerry Bruckheimer to keep the scene. If anything, because there were hardly any scenes with women. I'm like one of four
Mhm.
women in the whole thing.
Yeah.
And now I get asked on Cameo to do a few little things for people here and there as they remember. I mean, I had no idea at the time. I was in so much pain during that. I had no idea people
Mhm.
had conventions for the characters in Pirates and people were dressed up as my character, which is Estrella, which is a Spanish name, which I thought was very funny that you would cast and ever
Right.
since. Usually mean a bunch of minorities going for the maid. So this time I got the maid.
You got the role for the Spanish maid.
Yes, that was so funny because I would often be auditioning in the we don't know what to do with you category, right? So it would be me and a bunch of minorities because they knew they had to put minorities
Mhm.
in the show somehow, but they didn't know where. And usually I would not get the part. And so this
Mhm.
was funny that the one time I did get the part, it was with a Spanish name.
Right. So I don't know. When I look at you, I don't see Spanish maid, but hey, it worked. Well, that's fun. Thank you for sharing those stories. I'd always thought to ask you about your acting, and it didn't haven't gotten to it. Now, the kind of the last questions I want to bring up to you are actually I don't even know. We got our questions from our audience. These has come to us through Threads, through Facebook, and through Instagram. Periodically, whenever I'm close to running out of questions, I'll reach out and see if people want to give us more questions. And anyone who's listening, you're more than welcome to comment. And if this is YouTube or there's actually an option you can pick on any of the podcast platforms where it says like send us a comment or question. If you have a question you'd like me to put on my list to ask the comedians, send it my way and we'll get it on the. So Paula, the way it works is we have you'll be able to pick a number one through we're at 39, 1 through 39. So you pick a number and then I'll ask the question and tell you all who it's from. So whenever you're ready, give me a number.
27.
27. All right. This one comes to us from Facebook from Joe Whitey, who's also in the Clean Comedy Collective. And her question is, and it's pretty open ended. So answer it however you will. Where do you find your inspiration?
I find inspiration often after I meditate or when I go for walks.
Awesome. I get that especially about the walking. Something about doing something where it's mindless. Like for me, it's driving or even like getting ready in the morning. That seems to be when my brain starts being the most creative. So
Mhm.
I
Yes,
get that.
yes.
So yeah. All right, give me a number 1 through 39, but not 27.
21.
21. All right. This comes from Threads. James Mack, who's also a comedian, he said, who would you want to play you in a movie? When we have the pain
Oh,
to punchlines of the V.
I have to do my lookalike. It has to be Helena Bonham Carter.
Okay.
Like people
I,
said I look like her for so long, and I think she's just fabulous in everything she does. So I don't care if she's playing me 13 and she looks like she's 60. I still want her to play me.
she would do great either way. I love that. Good answer. All right, let's do one more question. Anything 1 through 39, but not 21 or 27.
6.
Six. All right. This one comes to us from Instagram from Bo Cowan, a Nashville-based comedian. He says, you can tell he's listened to my other podcast. He's asking, do you think Vin Diesel is too old to try stand-up comedy?
No one is ever too old to try stand-up comedy as long as you can. You don't even need to stand to
Yeah.
do stand-up comedy. I've taught people with a walker.
Yep. That's true. I feel like the follow-up question was like, do we think Vin Diesel would do good at stand-up comedy?
I would just watch him to see if he could remember the punchline. Like I'm
Right.
sure if he couldn't remember, he'd just punch something.
I think he could. I'd like to hear him do a routine about not even about Fast and Furious and acting and being an action hero. I want to hear him talk more about his opinions on Dungeons and Dragons because he's like a huge geek with Dungeons and Dragons, and I think that would be the routine. That would be
I did. I helped one girl. It was so funny because she was working on as a PA on one of Jason Bateman's things, and so she was around a lot of comedian writers. And one week she came back and she did this sort of set she was reading. I said, "That's great, but that's not you."
hmm,
And she's like, "What?" I go, "That is not about you. These are good jokes, but I need you to write your jokes." She ended up doing a funny set about being like people think that she's a hobbit and
mhm.
how she may work at the Renaissance Festival. And they took her profile picture when she was foraging for mushrooms for a game. And it was just like it just kept going further and further and further into the whole nerdy geek world that I was like,
I love
now
that.
this is your comedy right here. And she did
Yes.
fantastic for the first time ever doing it. It was really funny.
That's awesome. I give the same advice to people I teach as well, because especially when they first start, a lot of comedians feel the need to be really crass, to be really vulgar, to be very polarized or have opinions or like, I don't, the best way I don't think this is the most accurate way, but to be like jerks on stage because they feel like they have to be, right? And oftentimes when I'm in those first few lessons, I'm like, you could work on that, or you could do something a little bit more relatable, a little bit more authentic, a little bit more you, and it probably will be better. And so oftentimes, and usually it's by like lesson 3 or 4 that I start hearing them do jokes. I'm like, wow, that's the first time I've heard you do something. I'm like, wow, that has potential. And I think it's because they feel more comfortable sharing parts of themselves versus what they feel like, quote unquote, a stand-up comedian should be doing.
I know so many people, it takes 10 years to even start to do that. I'm still
Mhm.
working on it too, because there's what I need to be able to get time with what people want to hear from me,
Right.
and then what I want to do. But ultimately, what we're doing when we help people do this is help them listen to that true vibration of who they are in
Yep.
the world. And that is healing not only for them, but for the vibration. Everything is sound and vibration of who the world. If we listen to who we are, be true to who we really are on the inside, not what we're told,
Mhm.
we start to help heal everything. And that's what you're doing. You're helping people provide that space. And, a lot of being a pastor isn't just creating the speeches, you're listening to try to help people guide them to their
Mhm.
truth.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have anything you'd like to promote or anything specifically you'd like to tell our audience where they can find you or just anything of that nature?
Oh, that's lovely. Please always go to paulajanenewman.com and even hit it on your VPN so it looks like people around the world actually care enough. That would be
Hmm.
fantastic. The YouTube channel needs work. Again, that's Paula Jane Newman. Awaremeditation.org is that, and that will have the links to riseupcomedy.org. And you can reach out to me for classes or whatever, or one-on-ones, or how we can help bring comedy in spaces that's needed, even if it's online. And to do that, where I actually have my proper mic set up and
Hmm.
everything.
Yeah. That'll be great. I'm sure those are awesome classes. I love your virtual shows. I love we should promote them on the Clean Comedy Collective channels as well. And they're just so I keep meaning to come back even just to watch. I actually the recent one you promoted, which will probably be happening after this episode airs, but like I have it on my calendar. If I'm around on Sunday, I'm gonna pop in just to see and watch and all that kind of stuff.
That was I was right off of not too long off of the plane after my dad died. So I was like, I don't even know anything I'm saying. It's funny, but we're doing the show.
Yeah, it'll happen. So sometimes that's sometimes when we're in certain kind of headspaces, that's when our best stuff comes out. Or not. Sometimes it's like
Oh no.
or not. Like it's one or the other. But sometimes it's really and you end up thinking like, oh, I needed to do this. So well, listen, everyone who's listening, part of it, thank you so much for listening to our second episode of Clean Comedy Chats. Thank you, Paula, for being here. We appreciate you. Just a reminder to everyone who's listening, feel free to check out cleancomedycollective.com. You'll be able to see previous episodes, which in this case is just one previous episode. You'll be able to see our whole network of comedians, depending on which state they live in. So maybe you'll find your new favorite comedian. You'll be able to look up Paula. She's in our California section, and you'll be able to see more of her stuff. We also have all of our stuff in the episode notes. There's also other things you can do if you're a comedian that wants to apply for the Clean Comedy Collective. You can do that. You can see what shows we have coming up. If you want to maybe reach out about us potentially booking a show with you, that's something we can do. And lastly, there's ways to donate. If you're just like, wait, these guys are fantastic, I just want to give them all my money. You're more than welcome to do that. We won't turn it down. But thank you so much. Week 2, I still don't have a closing line. My old podcast, I would tell people to live life a quarter mile at a time, but that doesn't seem right here. So live your life a clean comedy chat at a time. That's never going to be said again. But thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Have a great one.
Thank you.